We're going to do another video here of just removing some valve springs. Okay, this is the head. I know it's a little bit blurry. We're down on location in the basement shop. Injectors, glow plugs, studs. This is the rocker shaft with the rocker arms. And this can just come right off here. I took the nuts off. A few pedestals and we can set that out of the way. Now we have our valves and our valve springs. And they're going to have these little wear caps on them. We can pull these off here. Get these out of the way. If you don't pull them off, you'll lose them. I guarantee it. Okay, they're all gone. Now we have our valve stem tips exposed. And what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a couple different methods of how to remove these valve springs. Okay, first one's going to be using an overhead valve spring remover. This is great if you just need something quick like valve stem seals. This one here, the idea is you have these two little legs with hooks on them. These hooks are going to grab in underneath your valve spring like so. You can adjust this here so that it's making contact with the valve spring, and then we can actually just pull it over. Let's change angles to the other action cam and see how these little legs are actually grabbing in underneath that spring. As we compress it, it'll compress that for us. And see, as I lock that over, it's now cammed in position. You can see the handle is locked in. It's going to hold it in place, so we can move this around freely. And now what we can do is use our favorite magnet to reach in and get our keepers out of that hole. Focus. So you can see these are valve stem tips. These are keepers around here. We've moved that spring so it's nice and loose around those keepers, but we need to get them out of the hole. And our magnet on a stick, usually our best friend. There we go. Got one. We'll come in and get the other one. And that's removing our valve spring. Now you should definitely wear safety glasses while you do this, because you might lose an eye. You can see the valve spring here. They do kind of grab it goofy because it's hard to get on the same rung because it spirals up. But this is it, fully loaded. Now what we can do is release this, but it's spring loaded and might put your eye out. So make sure you point it down towards something solid as you release it. Pull it apart. There's your valve spring. Okay. If you had a valve seat, you can get that valve seat now, and the retainer on top comes right off. Okay, second method of doing this is with a different overhead valve remover, and I like this one a little bit more because it's easier to control. Now, what I'm not going to show you is the one that grabs the head from both sides. I like these, and I like to use them. Same idea, has the two little legs on it, and you'll notice that the legs are staggered. One's lower than the other. So these ones here, you want to make sure you grab it the right way. Okay, so we're going to hook this on here. Get one lower than the other. And it's the same idea, but instead of that over center mechanism, we can just compress it. So I'm just going to switch to the other camera and look at that here. As we screw this down, it starts to compress that spring for us, nice and controlled. And we can see our keepers are now exposed. Okay, we got the one keeper, away he goes. This comes off. There we go. One last valve spring. Now the cowboy way to remove these is you take your favorite impact socket that fits on that valve retainer and you give it a quick whack. Nothing too crazy, but make sure you have a good hold on it because your keepers are going to go flying and you don't want to have to replace those. 2 keepers. 1 valve spring removed. Now to install, you do need a valve spring compressor. You can't just hammer it off. Okay. Now, what you do is put it in your compressor, slide it down over top of your valve. You'll take your keepers here and very carefully insert them into the retainer so that they slide down in that hole. Now I got big fingers, so I like to use my O-ring pick. Not this one, because this one's been magnetized, but I like to use my other one, which is off camera. In the hole he goes. Take your second keeper, rotate it so I can see it. In he goes. Now we can release the pressure on this. That's 1 valve spring almost installed. What we really desperately need to do is you take your soft face hammer, in this case is this one here, and give it a quick whack. Okay, that's going to seat those keepers and make sure they don't pop out. If you don't do that, your keeper may launch out of that hole on startup. You lose your spring, you drop your valve, you make somebody very unhappy.